Once a SEAL, always a SEAL. How much of you is still warfighter and how much is Master Healer?
50-50. It was like life or death. Like, I gotta win. Unless you've been through something like SEAL training, you don't know what it's like to feel like Superman.
Are you here today because of the stress that you endured as a child and all the trauma that followed?
1000%. This is great. This is my favorite interview.
Nice. Nice.
Today's guest, Christopher Lee Maher, former Navy SEAL, current Master Healer. He knows firsthand that these stressors, what they can really do to you day after day, year after year, if you don't resolve them, they can become something far worse. You get stuck in this fight or flight mode without even knowing it
Yeah.
until you have a ticking time bomb inside of you. Christopher, thank you for joining us. I can't wait to have this conversation.
I'm happy to be here.
I listened to your book
Okay.
and I was riveted.
Yeah, Free for Life.
Free for Life.
The subtext is a U.S. Navy SEAL's path to inner freedom and outer peace.
Right.
Yeah.
What really got me in the beginning, the way that you came into the world.
Children only have so many memories of their childhood,
Yeah.
right? But the ones that I have when I was really young are all very traumatic, right? I was born bow-legged. My mom was a bit obsessive, compulsive, and she wanted the doctors to straighten my legs out until they broke my legs mid-thigh and casted me. So you can imagine that a child's nervous system is super, super, super sensitive, right? It's like it's fragile as a butterfly's wings, right? It's very different than adult. Think about breaking a child's femurs,
Can't imagine.
right? Yeah, very, very,
They wouldn't
very,
do that now.
very,
right?
very true.
You would imagine. You would hope.
Question, do they?
I mean, no, there's no need to do it. You could
Right.
simply just massage the muscles that attach from the sits bones all the way down to the lower leg, and you could reduce that tension really quickly. So she brought me home with cast on my legs. Most of the wrestlers that I work with, they're bow-legged. Partly of what makes them really good is because they have a distinct lateral advantage if they're bow-legged,
Oh, sure.
right? Because they can drive a lot of force to the outside.
Right.
But in the end, it made my legs very strong. I became a really good runner. The problem was is that my legs as an adult, well, they look straight, right? But the problem is they never took out the tension that caused the legs to be bowed in the first place.
right,
So I was walking around like someone who had straight legs, thinking he was flexible, but really I was not. And then I ended up with a bunch of lower leg, mid-thigh, hip and shoulder injuries because of it. The world was very different then.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see a lot of interracial relationships, right?
Yeah.
My mother was Irish. My father was African American. And so her parents didn't even know that I was born.
Wait, they didn't know she was pregnant?
They didn't know she was pregnant. She got pregnant, okay, in Philadelphia.
Oh.
Okay, stayed here, had the child, and then moved back home and left me with these people.
What did she tell them?
I have no idea what
hanging
she
out in
told them.
Philly for a minute?
But after my brother was born, she was like, hey, I have another kid.
Wow.
And then she came and retrieved me after Ryan was born.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
But your babysitter wasn't that nice of a lady, I guess.
I think she was stressed, right?
Yeah.
So the irony is now I help people who are
Right.
stressed. She was having a break from reality.
Right. And so you said
So,
in your book that you loved to watch.
The matches.
The matches,
Right? So I'd light a
flames.
match, right? And I would just watch it burn down. Now, as a child, you have no idea because your mind's in a precognitive state of function
Right.
at 3 years old
Yeah.
that flame is going to eventually get to your skin. So the flame gets in the skin and I'm just like, ow.
But one time she saw you and
Yeah, she saw me. Well, she had an orange polyester rug, and then there were a lot of black singed holes
She wasn't happy about
in her
that.
rug, and she lost it. Right, picked me up, put me on top of her left hip, dragged me downstairs, and she just turned on the gas stove, and she just
put your hand in it.
she put my both hands. Right, so you can see. Right, you can see.
Do you
like,
still have?
yeah, I
Oh
still
my
have all that.
gosh.
See.
Wow.
Oh.
How old were you again?
I was
Three?
3 years old.
and a quarter years old.
Did
yeah, 3 and a
anything
half.
happen to her? Accountability?
Accountability, I remember going to court one time, but that's all I remember of it. The biggest issue is that if she burned my hand, she put Vicks Vapor Rub on the hands, I think
It's
she
the
thought
cancer
she was
So it
reaching for
fried.
Vaseline.
Yeah, it's like napalm.
Oh,
Even
yeah.
that would have not been
Yeah,
good.
which was then, so that was a very difficult
And
experience.
then you passed out and
Yeah, and then I passed out, and then I just ejected from my body.
Yeah.
And I just basically watched reality from above.
You remember
Wait,
that.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
going to say.
Because
So-
something that traumatic will eject someone out of their body.
So you experienced that and you remember
Yeah.
it
Oh, yeah.
at that young age.
Yeah,
You remember seeing
I
the things
remember
that you
entering back
couldn't
into
see.
my body.
When was that?
That was when I was about 4.5 years old.
It took that long. Because
Yeah.
you were in the hospital, right? Didn't
I
you
was
go?
in and out of the hospital for years. I had my last surgery in 5th grade,
Hold on.
the summer of 5th grade.
Let me make sure I understand the timeline.
Okay.
She did that to you when you were 3.
Yeah.
Your spirit ejected
Yeah.
from your body.
So when you're
a year and a
depersonalized, you're
half
just
later?
floating above.
Yeah.
Yeah. So about a year and a half, about
You were
4.5
unconscious for a
years
year and a
old.
half?
Not unconscious. I was just out of my body.
Disassociated.
It's called being depersonalized.
But you
That's
were
the actual
walking
correct
around.
term.
You weren't on.
No, my
a
body was
hospital gurney
walking
for a year and a
around
half.
and still doing
I got it.
things,
I
but
understand.
I'm observing reality from outside of my body.
Okay.
Because it feels too unsafe to go back in.
Okay.
And
Well,
then
how
about
would
4.5.
you trust anyone after
What?
that?
Yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah.
how, I mean,
that's terrible.
I'm wondering that.
It's horrible.
I mean, well, think about it. I ended up being a bedwetter, right?
Well,
I
we
ended
all-
up
a lot of us
biting my
were.
nails,
Yeah.
my nails down to the nub,
Yeah.
right? I ended up being a stammerer. So the other kids are like going to the board and, okay, what do you know of this, Jake? And they're saying what they need to say and to get to me. And I'm like, I can't get a word out because I can't relax.
What did that feel like?
I mean, for me, I don't think it bothered me that much because for some reason, and I don't understand why, when I was at Milton Hershey School in Hershey, Pennsylvania, no one ever teased me about the stammering.
Didn't the one teacher tell them they couldn't?
She pulled all the kids into the kitchen and said, if I ever hear one of you teasing this boy because he stutters, you're going to be on the gravy train. And the gravy train
Was
meant
not good.
you had to do all the dishes and
No.
all the chores.
wants
And
that.
then we were outside playing. And we loved if you were on the gravy train because we didn't have any chores to do.
You were an athlete, a
Yep.
decorated athlete, right?
Yep.
Then you ended up at college. You were playing sports in college, correct?
Yep.
Football,
Track and field.
track and field.
Yep.
And then you decided to go into the SEALs. Like, how did that happen?
No, so the timeline is I was gonna go run track and field at Shippensburg University, and I was hanging out with some kids from Reading, who ran the truck, the SUV, into a tree,
Oh,
and I injured the top of my right foot.
oh,
And so when I went to Shippensburg University, there was no way I was going to be able to run. So I ended up running to the frat parties instead.
yeah.
And I started drinking and developing my social life from there. And then I sort of put that off to the side, and that kind of derailed me a bit because I think if my foot was normalized, I would have joined the cross country team and the track and field team, and I would have been in sort of like a healthy structure. I was there for 2 semesters, and then I was out of school. And then I moved back to the town that my mom is from. I used some of the resources from my trust fund, and I opened up a sandwich shop called the Hoagie King.
What?
I opened up the Hoagie King. I'm doing that for about 6 months, and you have to get up at like 4:30 in the morning to get down to pick up the cheese, the meats, and the breads from Pottsville. And after about 6 months, I was like, no, I'm
Early.
done with this.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, this is done. No, this was not the vision I had when I was looking out the window at Milton Hershey School, staring off into space and having a fantasy of what my life might look like. There was a biannual magazine about SEAL training. I saw the cover, which had like, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 boat crews of guys running down the beach with telephone poles on their shoulders, white t-shirts, green khakis, and black boots. And I looked at that picture and I was like, that's for me.
Wow.
I don't know what's going on. I read it from cover to
Would
cover.
you do that?
I would
I'd
love
be
to
like,
have done that.
That
Yeah.
ain't me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was just
You
like,
would love to do
I
that?
would probably have rung the bell,
Yeah,
though. I don't know
yeah.
that I could have lasted.
Yeah.
Although I'm saying that now as a
Yeah, yeah.
58-year-old, maybe as a 22-year-old.
No, you definitely could have. Yeah.
Yeah, look, the thing about SEAL training is really simple. If you have a reason to be there
Yeah.
and you don't mind being uncomfortable,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
fine. And I think this is where having my hands burned and growing up with a lot of childhood trauma and having a mother who had my mom had borderline personality disorder.
That's tough.
Okay. And so she was Tinkerbell and then she was Godzilla, but you didn't know when she was going to shift from Tinkerbell to Godzilla. Right. But when she was tough. Godzilla, like she was Godzilla. And I think that prepared me for SEAL training. And at an emotional level, it made SEAL training very easy. There's never once in my head I was like, oh, I'm going to quit. Really? It was just like, you just endure.
Yeah,
right?
Because you're used to doing that. How old were you when your mom died?
I was 7 years old.
Was that a sudden thing?
That was a surprise, right?
Yeah.
Because I was sitting on a couch. She handed me a Bible and she handed me a bag of Jolly Ranchers. And she said, if you don't hear back from me in the morning, I want you to go find Peggy McElhenney. And I was like, okay. And then she walked out the door. She walked out to Route 61. I think she contemplated what she was going to do for a while. And then she stepped into the middle of the highway, a Stroman's bread truck doing its deliveries, smashed into her, and she died of a ruptured liver upon arrival to the hospital.
Wow.
Yeah. So she meant business. She wasn't joking around. She was suffering.
Yeah. Don't you wish you knew what you knew now then?
Yeah,
somehow you
because
could step
this
back
is
in.
part of why, part of the driver for what I do is, people who are suffering. I have helped a lot of really complex cases. People who have endured through things that I endured as a child are very successful in the world. Okay. It's like CEOs, Surgeon Generals, Fortune 500 companies, professional athletes, directors, producers, highly successful actors. A lot of these people, if you dig into their background, they've gone through some very difficult stuff between womb and 13 years old.
You were in that basement, you saw that magazine cover, and then did you just report?
I literally just read it again, and then I read it again. And Milton Hershey was a little too structured for me. It was like every minute was accounted for. Like at 7:15, we're eating breakfast. At 7:30, we're cleaning up breakfast.
Wow.
At 7:45, the van's leaving for school. School starts at 8 o'clock. And it was that same routine again and again and again and again. And so the monotony of that for me was just too much. I was a dreamer. They didn't get me, and the school wasn't set up for someone like me to function really, really, really well.
Like a creative brain.
As a creative brain. So I just needed space.
I feel the same way. Routines, I've gotten much better. But I used to, never drive the same way home twice.
Really?
Yeah. I used to
I'm still the same way.
Yeah.
You're a really routine guy.
I'm very routine.
Yeah.
Oh, you're very routine.
What's the most efficient way to eat breakfast? What's the most efficient way to get home?
You've always been like that?
Yeah, I think so. It's all about time.
No.
Time and efficiency.
Mine is what's the most beautiful route on the way
It's
home?
funny. That never occurs to me.
I'm taking that drive.
And have I gone this way like 400 times this week? Like, let's not go this way. Let's go another way. Even if it takes me longer.
Oh, if it takes you longer, what are you doing?
I don't
Places
know.
to be?
I just can't do the same road.
It's a different mindset.
You're never going to
No, I get
understand
it. I'm never going to
the way
understand.
we think, but I'm just like Chris.
I get it. I love that.
I wish.
No, I love that.
Yeah, so when you look at
Smell the
the
roses.
and the way to answer this is like there's two hemispheres of the brain. Well, the right hemisphere is emotional and creative and spacious. And those who are left brain dominant are practical and pragmatic and efficient. That's how the brain
That's
runs.
why we work.
That's it.
But that
We're both half a brain.
already lets me know that she is right brain dominant and you're left brain dominant.
Yeah, I imagine so.
For sure.
Yeah.
But it works well for
Which is
partnerships,
why
right?
1,000%.
Yeah. Okay, so back to SEALs.
I showed up to SEAL training, 2 weeks early. I was still on vacation. And so he goes, how many pull-ups can you do? And I was like, I don't know.
6.
20? And he was like, you can do 20 pull-ups? I got to like 18 and he was like, nope, that doesn't count. He doesn't want me to get to 20. So that was an interesting way for me to enter into SEAL training because he was a character.
Did he end up liking you?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, of course he did.
Yeah.
It's always that.
Yeah, you guys remember this show, Chico and the Man?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
totally.
Yeah, so he called me Chico.
Did he?
So the whole time in training.
That's funny. Everybody gets a nickname.
Yeah,
Fun
everyone
one.
gets a nickname. It's like, hey, Chico. And I'm pretending like I don't know who he's talking to.
Good.
And he's like, you know who I'm talking to, Chico. You better get over here. And I'm like, no, I'm not Chico. Chico, get your ass over here now. And I was like, And I stepped forward. So he was always joking around
Yeah.
with me. And I think he could sense I was a little bit nervous. And then I went to a restaurant to eat lunch, the Brigantine. And I didn't know that his wife worked at the Brigantine.
Oh.
So I'm sitting there eating, and she's like, "Oh, where are you from?" And like, "I'm in SEAL training." She's like, "How's training going?" Like, "Training's great, except for, there's this instructor, she's like, "Who's the instructor?" I'm like, "Mr. Egan." And she's like, "Well, what did he do?" And I'm like, "Well, he's just such an asshole."
Oh my
She
gosh.
set you up.
Right?
She set you up. She knew
Right?
who you were.
No, I don't think
That's true.
she knew who I was. So I'm there, and she's like, "Well,
Interesting.
I'll have to tell him when I get home that he's an asshole."
great.
Oh my God.
Right? And then I go in the next morning in SEAL training. I walk in, and he comes over and he's like, "I heard you're trying to have sex with my wife."
Oh my God.
And I was
That's
like,
hilarious.
"What?" No, sir. That is I was just having lunch. He's like, "I got my eye on you, Chico."
Oh my God.
So yeah. So most people think the instructors at SEAL training are like deep into your throat. No, they're like
Screaming at you.
comedians.
Oh.
They're like
Comedians.
joking with you the whole time because it's their job to see if you have thick skin.
Let me ask one more SEAL question.
Go ahead.
We were talking earlier, and I said, should they change the rigorous physical demands
Yeah.
to allow more women to complete SEAL training? And you said no.
No. So my feeling is as women start to shift genetically and these newer demands that are passed on to their bodies, 40, 50 years from now, I think women's bodies might be able to handle SEAL training. But in the end, what's going to happen, you're going to spend a lot of money, you're going to spend a lot of time, you're going to spend a lot of effort for someone not to get through something
Yeah.
because physiologically the stress and the demand is too great.
Too much.
And the truth is you can't change SEAL training from the way that it's done because you're going to war.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
has to
Right.
be as intense
Right.
as it is.
As it is.
Has to be as difficult as
and
it
the
is.
last thing is we can't control her menstruation cycle. And so when she's bleeding, she's a problem
Because of sharks?
because
Why?
of dogs.
Because of dogs?
Yes, because of dogs. The dogs will track her down.
Oh, I see. They'll see.
Yes, for sure. They will smell her
Never
blood.
thought of that.
Interesting.
How about
I
that?
never thought of that.
Yeah.
So you
Well,
want
you said because of
menopausal women?
You said because of sharks?
We want- but those menopausal women have
Oh, some
what?
of them are
They
badass
have
though.
weak
They're already
bones.
You've seen
badass.
it, right?
Right.
Well, some of them do. Did you almost die when you had hypothermia? Or was
Yes. Yeah. I had what's called ventricular fibrillation. Right.
Yes.
So my core temperature dropped to like 87.6 degrees. We were in Hell Week, and you want to get to Wednesday night because if you get to Wednesday night, hump night, then you know you're pretty much going to get through Hell Week. And if you get through Hell Week, your chances of getting through SEAL training are really, really good if you can get through the classroom stuff and not make any safety violations. So we're in a semicircle, and the instructor's over here, and every guy's got to go around and tell his best joke, right? They got a campfire going. I can't believe it. It's the light of fire. We're warming up. One of my buddies, another cat from Philly, and Sean says, "Man, how come you're not shivering? Everybody else is shaking like a leaf."
Because you'd been in the water for a while,
Yeah,
right?
for a while.
Yeah.
"How come you're not shivering?" I
Right.
said, "Man, I'm hot. What are you talking about?
Uh-oh.
I'm feeling good." We're by the campfire, and the instructors took every one of our paddles for the boats, and they set up this maze. And they said, "Listen, if any one of you knocks down one of these pedals, you're back in the ocean for 5 minutes for every paddle that gets
Ooh.
knocked down."
Oh my gosh.
I was the last one out. I knocked over every paddle.
You were
'Cause you were-
disoriented? You were
I
off
was
balance?
literally, because I didn't have any blood in my extremities
Oh
anymore.
my God.
I completely lost out of my balance. And then this instructor, Valderrama, he just basically said, "All right, let's go to the truck." And he's big guy, big, strong forearms. And he was squeezing on my traps as hard as he could. I couldn't feel it,
Oh my
anything.
God.
Okay. And then they gave me a thermometer up the old,
Kista.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
And they saw the core temperature was too low, and then the instructors stripped down and they hopped under a blanket with me
To try and warm you up.
to try to warm me up, because you have to warm you up subtly. And then they took me to the hospital and they dumped me into a warm tub and they slowly increased the temperature in the tub. And then I woke up the next day. Of course, I was bummed. I didn't make it through Hell
You
Week. So I
didn't
had to
make it
go
through.
back
Oh no.
yeah, you had to do
at
it
the
again.
beginning of training
Yeah.
again. So
That's tough.
yeah, it was tough.
You've had this generational trauma, you
Yep.
would call it.
Yeah.
You woke up probably a lot of days, but one day in particular, and you had pain in your body that was so severe that you called your buddy
Yep.
and you said, I need to, you asked for help, which I think
Yep.
is incredible. You said he brought over a juicer and a yoga
And he brought over a yoga mat.
mat.
Yep. I didn't know what a yoga mat was. This is 1999. So imagine 1999.
Yeah, that is a
I
while
don't know
ago.
what a yoga mat is.
Yeah. So that was the start of your
Journey.
starting to heal journey, which now you teach other people how to do.
Yeah. My healing journey, I think the first thing that I needed to do is I needed to be able to get comfortable with asking for help because I never asked for help. I was somebody that I helped other people if they needed help, but it was very difficult for me to go, hey, I'm suffering. Because at Milton Hershey School, everyone had to do all the other chores that everyone had to do. There
Right.
was no preferential treatment.
Yeah.
You couldn't be like, oh, I'm not feeling good today. Can I lay in bed? So I had this mindset. Now imagine going to the military and going to SEAL training. You think they're giving me more leverage or less leverage.
Yeah. Yeah.
They don't care if you're sick, if you're ill, if you're in pain. If you want to get through this program, you suck it up and you move on. And yeah, that made me resilient, but the thing that had become a gift had turned into a curse. So I created a bunch of limiting beliefs that I had to work through. And the first thing I had to work through was, one, admitting that I was in pain and I was hurt, and two, admitting that I actually needed help. And so I did what I considered to be vulnerable at the time, which was to ask someone for help. And he helped me. And what he helped me realize is that I was toxic and I was tight and I was sick. And he was fit and he was healthy. And we both went through SEAL training at the same time, right? We were both on the West Coast SEAL teams at the same time. And here I am struggling and he's prospering,
Right.
right? Because I was going to the bar and he was going to the yoga studio.
Yeah.
And that was a wake-up call. By the time I got done my drink, I realized he was healthy and fit and I was fit and toxic. I got into Rolfing. Jeff came over, brings a yoga mat. We're out there doing the stuff. He's getting in all these wild positions. I couldn't get in any of them. In fact, it was so laughable. He was laughing at the same time.
Yeah, he's never done yoga.
Oh, you haven't done yoga? Okay.
I can't get in any position.
Yeah. So you're the same as me,
This
right?
is what he needs
got
to
it.
hear this.
So I couldn't get in any of them. And I was a little bit frustrated, but I thought, okay, well, he's been doing this a long time. And then at one point, I remember my mind created this belief like, oh, well, he must have been born that way.
Yeah, flexible, right?
Yeah.
Versus strong.
Yeah. But I didn't consider, he went through the same things that I went through. But look, the truth is he put the time in to make himself better.
Right.
And I didn't. I put the time in to make myself worse. And the end result of that is joint pain.
And then what's Rolfing?
Rolfing is called structural integration. What they do is they use their elbows and their shoulders, and they have 10 specific sessions to remove tension from your connective tissue.
It hurts, right? It's not like a massage.
I would say it's where I first learned how to meditate,
Because you had to like put your brain
because
in.
you literally have to like,
I've been that way in a therapeutic massage before.
you have to breathe. And I was like,
Does it hurt so much?
Yeah, it hurts.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
very, 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 very intense. I made it through my first 10 sessions. And I thought, okay, I'm hopeful things can change. I figured out that all my gifts in high school were from my family, had something to do with my sports teams and running and all that. All the gratification I got from the ladies was from having a nice body, and they're always touching me and, oh, you're so strong. And so I built this.
I feel you.
Yeah, you understand?
Stop it, you too.
That made me really start to evaluate my decisions moving forward. And so then I spent all of my money, all of my time, and all my effort finding anyone who could help me reduce the amount of pain that I was in.
I think Stacy mentioned to me that you can see an aura of a person. Is that
Yes.
you seeing the energy that they're putting out?
Yeah.
And if so, what is Stacy's aura?
Well, it depends. For me, I'd have to get into a state sitting across
Oh,
from
I
her,
see.
and we
Got
would
it.
start tuning into her eyes, and then what would happen is her energy would shift, and I would be able to see her energy first, and then I would see her body. So when I start taking tension and stress out of someone's body, initially all I see is like this coffee table that we're looking at, all these sharp lines. As you start removing tension, you can see all of the energy around them, and you're actually interacting with their energy first instead of this dense, negatively conditioned body that's been negatively conditioned for thousands of years. People forget humanity went through the Dark Ages. If we were in the Dark Ages right now, do you think that by yourself you could get on your horse and buggy and drive to town to sell your milk without being kidnapped, killed, or raped? No. Mm-mm. A
Thank goodness we're
man
not in
had to
Dark
have
Ages.
a sword. You had to have a sword,
Yes.
which was visible to anybody who was going by you on a horse, because that would let them know that I can take care of me, my family, and my wife. Do you have to do that now? You just hop in your car
Yeah.
and you go to work. So even though we aren't under those same stress loads in our environment, genetically and epigenetically, your body's still telling you the same story.
Yeah.
Your body's still telling you that you're not safe.
I love this. I believe this. I was fascinated when I read your book, and
Yeah.
I still am. And there's just so much more about you too. How
Yeah.
you learned Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
How you lived in a cave in the dark for 28 days.
Yeah, I
with
just got
20
back
other
from
people.
that cave.
You did it again?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, we
Yeah.
have to hear about this.
For 28
Yeah.
days again?
Yeah, for 28 days I went into
Recently.
absolute darkness. Well, I went in for a couple weeks in absolute darkness. I just got back from Thailand, and I was meditating. I was by myself this time, and I was meditating and stretching and fasting and, putting myself back together. Because every year you accumulate more stress, more tension,
You could
more.
probably do that because you've fasted for many more days than me. I'm not a faster.
Yeah, but you fasted for how long?
I fasted for
50
44 days.
I thought it was
44
53.
days.
Well, 44 days plus fasting in and then fasting out.
Okay.
So you enter in and then you exit slowly.
That is
So
far more
only-
than 7.
Yeah.
Only the 44 days.
Yeah. By the way, if you
Counts.
fast for that long, by the time you get to day 30, the only thing you fantasize about is food.
I'll bet.
Because we talked to somebody who hadn't eaten for 40 days. And he
Yeah,
said it was
yeah.
easy. He was 23 or 24.
He
but
felt he was carried by a current. Remember?
yes.
Like it wasn't
Different-
a struggle every day. He was just moving.
No.
Different
Like
consciousness.
the first, I think probably like day 6, you're like in a struggle. But once you get to like day 8, 9, 10, you're in a flow.
I do want you to tell us your message and what you want people to know.
The thing for everybody who's listening to know is that every single human is full of stress, is full of tension, is full of emotional, psychological, and energetic distortion and heavy loads of toxicity. And if you refuse and you avoid to clean those out, the last 10 to 12 years of your life will be difficult. And there's no reason for that.
What would be the first step for someone who, I'm sure people are listening
Yeah,
and watching who know that they're not in alignment, but it seems so daunting.
Yeah, the first step, one, is just to go to your bathroom or your bedroom, sit in front of the mirror, and have a come to Jesus conversation. And just ask Jesus, like, what are the ways in which I can improve my body and my brain, my spiritual life, my emotional life? And would you be willing to guide me and show me the way? And then open your heart. Because when you're doing that, you're admitting that you're full of faults, okay? And now you're in a state of vulnerability. And after you get done that conversation, go have a conversation with a real person and tell them, hey, my neck hurts, or my back hurts, or my wrist hurts, or I'm not sleeping well, or I got really poor digestion, or I've been constipated for 5 days, because someone is going to know someone who can help you. And now you put yourself in the assertive position by connecting to Christ. You put yourself in the receptive position by opening up and admitting that you need help. And so now in those positions, you're going to invite someone in to help you. The third step, which is the easiest, is you have to break your addictive relationships with the daily acceptable drugs: nicotine, caffeine, alcohol, pharmaceutical drugs, recreational drugs. Okay, you've got to break your relationship with those and start to build a more holistic life. The last thing, if you get your food right and you become receptive, you simply need to work on getting a good night's sleep.
Ugh, I would love one.
Yeah.
Because if you
not
get a
happening.
good
Yeah.
night's sleep
Yeah.
So
and
important.
you're eating the right food, you're going to feel good. And when humans feel good, they do good.
They do good.
And when
Yeah, it's very
humans
true.
feel bad, they do bad. And what I mean by that is this. If I feel bad when I wake up, the first thing I'm going to reach for is a cup of Joe. The cup of Joe is going to amplify the amount of adrenaline and cortisol that's running through my system. And now I'm going to be over-engaged and overly focused, and I'm going to start missing things. I'm going to get all the stuff done on my list. But guess what? I will have forgotten Valentine's Day. I'm going to get home. My wife's going to be like, hey, did you forget something today? What do you mean? On my list? I got everything done. But you're going to miss the emotional things, right? And so focus on getting a good night's sleep. Do whatever you can to take care of your body. Oh, this is the last thing.
Oh, no, keep going.
Okay.
Yes.
Find an Alphabiotics practitioner. You could go to alphabiotics.org or alphabiotics.net, and they will help you get out of fight or flight through a real simple process. And the first alignment is the most important because it's the very first time your nervous system, your entire life from womb until now, is going to be out of fight or flight. And it's going to change your reality.
If you're looking back at that little 3-year-old boy who's in the coma,
Unbelievable.
knowing what you know now, what do you wish someone had told you then?
Everything's going to work out. Yeah. Everything is going to work out. I mean, I personally believe I was put here to go through everything that I went through to produce and create everything that I did, because before I was born, there wasn't a system out there that if you were born bow-legged, we could straighten your legs. And guess what I created? A system that can straighten any kid's legs who's born bow-legged and or knock-kneed.
How about that?
You created that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild.
Yeah.
You are incredible.
Thank
You
you.
really are.
Thank you.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. And thank
That's
both
great
of you.
conversation.
This is great. This is my favorite interview. Sorry for all the other podcasts that I've been on. If you're the in-person is the way to
it's
go.
nice to be in
This
person.
is the way to go.
And that's
Yeah,
why we're
I
so
feel
grateful
you.
you made
I
the
f-
flight to get here. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
I feel you. I feel what you're trying to do in the world, and it's phenomenal. And I'm so glad you get to help people at Penn State.
Yeah.
And your book,
Yes.
please tell people how
Okay.
to find it.
Yeah, Free for Life. Go to my website, truebodyintelligence.com. That's the place to go pick it up.
Yeah.
And get the auditory version.
Yeah, it's really good.
Now, if you're someone who likes, you like to take notes, obviously get both and take notes. But the key is you have to realize that this is not a self-help book. This
No.
is not, this is like, I'm just giving you the information so you can at least make an informed decision. If you don't have the education around stress and how that creates disease or dis-ease, however you like to think about it, then you're only going to continue to keep doing the things that you're doing. But at least if you have the information, you can make a really good choice.
It's really good stuff.
Pick up the
Thank
book.
you so much.
Thank
Change
you.
Your life. It's
Pick
that
up
simple.
the book. And it's and I listened to the audio version, and your voice is so calming
Oh, thank you.
and so peaceful.
And the other thing, the really great thing is this year, I'm going to be building free tools that I will make available on YouTube because a lot of people that I work with are successful professionally, in spite of their own suffering that they're going through. And I want to make sure that every Jane and Joe on the planet has an opportunity to be able to access these tools that I utilize to get myself out of the hell that I was living in.
It's amazing. Well, you're doing great work.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So
We
happy
will
to
see
be here.
you soon. Oh, we're going to see you again.
Yeah.
There's no
Hold
doubt.
on. Before we go,
Oh,
I
no,
want
let's
everyone
not
to
go.
meet my brother Ryan.
That doesn't
It's
matter.
okay.
But you look great.
Okay.
It is great to meet
Okay.
Hey, Ryan, good.
Yeah.
Come on, sit down. You have a couple
My
minutes.
brother is my favorite person in the world.
Wonderful.
We're very, 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 very different. We're
You-
polar
I
opposites.
see the similarities, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
mean,
love this
clearly
guy.
he means the world
He's
to you. You
awesome.
can tell, right? You can tell.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
So I'm sure the feeling's mutual.
Absolutely.
We don't have a microphone on Ryan.
Oh,
But
we don't have a microphone over
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
It's funny too.
So that's great. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing him.
Yes,
pleasure
thank
being here
you.
listening.
This is awesome.
Love
All right.
it.
You guys have a great day. You guys have a great day.
You guys have
We
a good
will
day.
see you soon.
You need work done.
Be well.
Be well. Thank you. Goodbye.